Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for being with us. Well, we're 11 days away from the most important election of our lifetime. And make no mistake, it absolutely is. It's life or death on the line, not literally, but maybe, definitely figuratively with between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is an absolute train wreck, taking days off to campaign. President Trump has never done such things since 2016. Even a day off for President Trump on a golf course doesn't mean it's a day off. The guy's on his phone 24/7, working 24/7. But early voting is underway. 47 states have early voting, and most of them have begun. 3 states don't partake in early voting: Alabama, Mississippi, and New Hampshire. It's probably why their election results come in on election night and they get their act together. But nonetheless, early voting is underway. 18 million people have voted so far early, a massive number, and they're breaking records. I asked Mark Mitchell to join us today. He's our guest of the day. He's the leading head pollster for Rasmussen, the guys who get it right, nonpartisan. Mark, it's great to have you with us back on the show. I got to tell you, I got an email from a person after I had you on the show 2 months ago, and she said, we have 2 of the nicest sets of hair she's ever seen on people. Now, I like you. You're a nice guy, so I don't want to, get into it all. We'll just leave it at we'll just leave it at that, and we'll move on. A lot of talk about Donald Trump. We've seen polling since Kamala Harris came in, since Joe Biden announced he'd be running for re-election, up and down, all around. What do we see now as a trend as we enter the final 11 days of this election cycle?
Yeah, the polling has been crazy. It's been up, it's been down, it's been flat in our polling, at least, at Trump +2 literally the entire time between our last interview and today. And that's a real surprise, I think, for a lot of people who may be watching mainstream media news, who's cherry picking all of these perennial left pollsters like Morning Consult and Reuters Ipsos. Right. But people have seen Donald Trump. He's had everything thrown at him. He's getting 49% of the electorate now. The thought that some of those people are going to change their mind or somehow peel off because of some Kamala Harris ad is really weak sauce. And what you're starting to see, again, the polls have been, like I said, pretty locked in at about a Harris +2 national popular vote win. But that's not enough to get her over the hump, because we all know there's going to be left polling error, just like there was the last 2 cycles with Trump on the ballot. So it looks like a clear Trump win. And I've been saying that. Problem is, none of the people in the media have been willing to acknowledge it until it finally came crashing down to them. And reality has been a very cruel mistress in the last week or two. A lot of people having their cognitive dissonance shoved in their face to realize that Donald Trump's probably going to be their president for the next 4 years, like I've been saying literally all year.
You often, for anyone who doesn't follow Mark on Twitter, Mark, what's your handle?
Mark_R_Mitchell. I'm new to Twitter and I love it.
I couldn't remember that. I just know to type in Mark, and you're the first one that comes up. But Mark's a tweeting maniac, and Mark's got all the latest on Polymarkets. Now, for all you out there who aren't degenerate gamblers, Polymarket, pretty much what it does is it lets you bet on who's going to be the next president. The odds are almost like a 60-40, if I'm not mistaken, Mark, right now in President Trump's favor. Now, I constantly see these left Marxists on Twitter going, well, the Republicans, they're manipulating the Polymarkets. And I'm going to myself, you idiot. There's no manipulation here. This is money moving into the market and money moving out of the market. This isn't like a stock market manipulation or, getting E. coli at McDonald's and driving the stock down at $30 in a day. This is people betting on the markets and the odds changing. It's the same way a line moves when you go, like I said, if you're not a degenerate gambler, you wouldn't know this stuff, and I'm not. Well, it's a different story. But you bet on a game in Vegas, the more the money goes to that one team, the odds go up. I mean, it's just how it is. So what is it right now for President Trump on Polymarket?
Polymarket is incredible. Unless there's always been betting markets, so we're predicted. I like Polymarket just because it's such a deep market and it's got a really slick website. So I go and check it first. And to be honest with you, there is some manipulation, in my opinion. I think way back when the markets were a lot shallower, some people were kind of holding the line in things like Pennsylvania, where there wasn't a lot of trading and it was a lot easier. But there are some really major whales. The thing is that market is going to always be right at the end of the day. It's just a matter of when. And so if people don't cash out and they ride it all the way to the end and they're wrong, they lose like a ton of money. But there are people that do have sizable positions. There was just a flash crash today. Somebody like sold a little bit and bought it again, right? So at the end of the day, they're not out a lot of money. Those people aren't in there, in my opinion, to spend tens of millions of dollars to craft a narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what has been great is that the betting market has been interpreting the polls better than the media is. And so, in my opinion, for weeks, Real Clear Politics, for anybody who knows the polling is going to be air to the left, can look at those pages and say Donald Trump wins. Because every single one of the swing states has been tied or Trump leading. And now they all look really Trumpy. And any polling error to the left means that Donald Trump sweeps all the swing states comfortably. And a national popular vote Harris lead of 2 points isn't enough to get her over the hump either. And poly markets told us all that before CNN and MSNBC did. They're still not even telling their viewers that Donald Trump's going to win right now.
You know, I got a call over the weekend, and this is the first polling call I think I've ever got in my life, and it was from New York Times Siena. They introduced it as Siena, not New York Times, but I'm under the assumption it's part of New York Times as well. The lady on the phone was not very informative. She couldn't pronounce Kathy Hochul's name, the governor of New York. So I think they just hire these people who don't really know what they're doing. But, asking me these questions, and, I'm not a pollster, but I understand the narrative that they're trying to get at. And they were polling specifically on New York. And they were trying to figure out. Now, I'm not going to tell you if I answered the question honestly or, tried to play with their polling a little bit. But I may have. It's the same way that people register as Democrats and then vote Republican to mess in Democratic primaries.
Yeah,
I think of it
that's
the same
how you
way.
game a poll. Yep,
exactly. So the questions they're asking me, it's sort of hinted to me that they're paying for this poll, and they wanted to know, 8 out of 10 of the questions geared. It was a 15-minute interview. Were geared towards trying to figure out how President Trump is doing in New York. Now, President Trump comes to MSG, Madison Square Garden, where I'm a proud New York Knicks season ticket holder, this Sunday, where I will see him. He's not coming here to waste his time, in my opinion, Mark. He's not coming here to make a statement, in my opinion, although Donald Trump loves to make statements. He's coming here because his polling is showing that something is going on in this deep blue state. Do you have any insight on what the hell is going on here?
Oh, yeah.
Please.
We talked about this before the show. The fundamentals all favor Donald Trump. What's crazy is just the polling doesn't. Right. And there's a ton of reasons why that could be. A lot of confirmation bias, a lot of poorly put together panels, and quite frankly, a lot of people won't respond to live operators, honestly, especially when it's an unpopular person like Donald Trump. People are afraid to put signs out. People are afraid their car is going to get knifed. And there is an impact. That's why we use, robo-dialing. But the polling on a national level has shifted between 6 to 8 points to the right.
Wow.
Those people live somewhere. They live in states like New York. And so across the board, maybe some of the states will be more than others. We expect to see a massive shift to the right. And we poll every night. We're the only people that have been putting out daily numbers all the way going back to the switcheroo. And a lot of those people live in New York. So I took 2 months of data and crunched some numbers. And I even weighted that data. I forced it into the 2020 vote. I forced it into the 23-point lead that Joe Biden had in New York in 2020. And what did I come out with? Harris plus 11.
Wow.
So I can tell you, I was not being very controversial with those weightings. I just used the 2020 weightings. So if we got new voters, if we got low propensity voters that break Trump, if we have more of a rural turnout, if we have a registration advantage in New York that Republicans have over Democrats, Trump could be in single digits there.
Now, when was it? Do you remember Jack Ciattarelli? He ran for governor of New Jersey. I'm not sure. I think it was the 2022 cycle. But this guy came in, and this is deep New Jersey, where we got Phil Murphy, who made a laughingstock of the state during COVID, out with his family at restaurants when he told us we couldn't go anywhere, if we wanted to go to Jersey for dinner. Now, they were more lax than New York. But nonetheless, I watched that election, Mark, and this is the problem that a lot of people don't realize who've never worked in politics, who just see it as what it is. there's backroom deals that are made constantly in politics. In other words, I have a safe Republican seat. You don't run a Democrat against me. I don't have to spend the money. And you know what? In your safe Dem seat, I won't run a Democrat against you and vice versa. And they make these deals so people are safe. I looked at that race of Jack Ciattarella, who had zero name recognition. And I got to be honest with you, I begged Lou to run for that seat from the day I met him because I thought he could have won. But nonetheless, you got this guy, Jack Ciattarella, nobody's ever heard of before, who comes within a few points of beating an incumbent governor in deep blue, the armpit of America, New Jersey. Sorry, I know you're a resident, but that's what it is. I'm from New York. That's what we gotta do. So that's when I started to realize maybe something's going on here. Then we see going into this election, we see in Virginia that things are switching. Now we're hearing, Mark, New Mexico may be in play. What's going on here?
I mean, a massive realignment of government in America. People are not happy with what they've seen in the 4 years during the Biden administration. This is, crackdowns and forced vaccines and businesses closed and supply chain shortage. I could go on and on and on. And it's going to have an impact. And like you said, I mean, the peak Biden distaste, I think the Ciattarelli race was the fall of 21. That was when people were chanting FJB in stadiums across America, and that has an impact. This election is a referendum on the Biden administration, and they basically suck. And I watched that Ciattarelli race because I live in New Jersey, and quite frankly, it fits the mold of what I expect to see in a blue state, which is Ciattarelli was up. Ciattarelli was up until the late middle of the night returns from heavily blue districts come. And we didn't get quite close enough, guys. Gee. Yeah. But I did the New Jersey numbers too, forcing a sample of New Jersey voters to a Biden 2020 plus 16. I think I came out with Trump down 9. So again, there's a massive shift to the right. I didn't do anything controversial. It could be a lot tighter than that. And I think Virginia is on the table. I polled Virginia last month and I had Harris plus 3. But all the states have moved to the right since then. And now all of a sudden, I think if I go into Virginia, I'm actually putting it into the field tonight. I might see a statistical tie in that state. I didn't do anything controversial with the weightings. We might see a Trump overperformance there. It might go to Trump. I mean, listen, they elected Youngkin. So,
Well, according to Roanoke, the last polling they did, they were in a statistical tie. I spoke with Robert Cahaley the other day of Trafalgar, just having some fun with him. And I think he had said something to me along the lines of he said something Nevada. He won't call Nevada for either because he says he never gets it right. Because I explained some disdain. I just come back from Vegas and I said, Robert, I don't know what the hell's going on with those people over there. I don't know what kind of drugs they're doing or what they're drinking, but I don't feel very confident. I walked through the airport, people wearing masks everywhere. TSA's wearing masks. I was like, I don't feel confident. And I think Robert came out to me and said something along the lines of, I think Trump would win Virginia. I'd give Trump Virginia before I did Nevada. I want to take a quick break here. We're talking with Mark Mitchell. He's the head pollster for Rasmussen. I mean, one of the very few guys who get it right, and they do an honest job at it. There's not very many pollsters out there who are honest, and that's something we all have to understand. It's the new reality. Trump derangement syndrome is real, and it's attacking people each and every day. Again, we're talking about Mark Mitchell. We're coming right back.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen-size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We're back. We're talking with Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, some of the leading pollsters in this country, top 3 in my opinion, if not number 1. Mark, early voting is underway. 18 million Americans as of this second. Tomorrow there'll be more, and the following day there'll be more. Is underway. 47 states and Washington D.C. all partaking in it. You got headlines from people at the New York Times saying President Trump, who once said, early voting's horrible, now all of a sudden changing his mind on it, and trying to go after President Trump for now, endorsing early voting. And it's a simple thing that I tell everybody. Dr. Oz went into Election Day down, I think, over 1 million votes to Neanderthal John Fetterman. You got a brilliant surgeon doctor who loses to a Neanderthal, goes into Election Day down 1 million votes. Now, I don't agree with early voting. I think it should be gone. The people who need to vote by mail, Mark, should vote by mail because they can't be in the country at the time. They can't leave the house. They're elderly, whatever the reason may be. We shouldn't have millions and millions of people voting by mail. We shouldn't have millions of people voting early. That's what it is. So as I said, I don't agree with it, Mark, but we have to deal with the hand that we are dealt. We cannot continue to let these Democrats go into these states and early vote, and we don't partake in it. We cannot let them go into states like Nevada and do legal ballot harvesting, and we not partake in it. I think the Republicans, and correct me if I'm wrong, are maybe doing a little bit better job this time than they did in 2020. Tell me, if you will, what your data is showing you as for early voting right now and what it means for President Trump.
So we polled on this, and I'll tell you, I haven't been watching the state-by-state returns very closely because I'll tell you there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of spin, a lot of people chewing their fingernails about stuff that, quite frankly, we just got to wait and see. I will say I think a lot of what I see confirms my polling, which is one more validation point, including the betting markets that show that we're right. But we did poll thinking of the presidential election. How do you plan to vote this year? And this was done like 10 days ago, so it's already pretty stale. But in-person election day is 45% of the electorate, 29% early in-person voting. So it's still more election day. And 23% say vote by mail. I'm pretty sure that is in line with the massive reduction in mail that we've seen since the last cycle, let's just say. Yeah. But here's the bad news for Democrats. People who say in-person on election day, 50% of Republicans, 50% of Trump voters, 39% of Harris voters. So according to these national numbers, and it's a pretty big poll, Republicans are going to outperform on election day. And I think most of the spin you see is that, well, Democrats decided not to vote in person on this time, inexplicably against all previous, cycles worth of experience. And that just doesn't look like it's going to be the case. And there's still a lot of Republicans voting early in person, 28% of them compared to 26% of Democrats. But Democrats, again, like always, have the edge on vote by mail.
You know, the old joke, I think it used to be for Republicans, they start out slow because they're working class people and they go to work that day, and the Democrats don't work. So they go out and vote early, and the Republicans always catch up later. But from all the numbers I'm seeing now that I monitor every single day on Twitter, the Republicans and Democrats are neck and neck with slight Republican edge in early voting in these key swing states like North Carolina, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia. And Republicans, like you just said, statistically like to show up on Election Day and vote. So now when you're going into Election Day, Mark, and like I said, I always use the Dr. Oz example, neck and neck, maybe up a little bit or down a little bit. Yeah. And your base turns out because the Trump voters, they like to go out on Election Day. They like to go out and show their pride. They pull up with their cars with the flags out, the American flags. And then, they like to make a showing that they're there to support the man they love so much. When you go into that, I think it's very hard to lose, as you've said. The thing that scares the shit out of me, Mark, is this. The Democrats are seeing what these numbers are now, and cheating is an issue we've seen in the 2020 election and maybe years before. The Democrats see these numbers and they see where they're at and they know where they are going into Election Day. And it kind of scares me a little bit that they may play with maybe some mail-in ballots. You got Brad Raffensperger down in Georgia who's saying we won't know who's won the election until Friday because we've got 25,000 or something like that ballots coming from overseas. When you hear things like that happen and you put the 2 and 2 together, Mark, it scares the hell out of me. What do you think?
No, I think you're right to be scared. That's the issue. What I should be able to tell you based on my polling is that Donald Trump is winning. Incontrovertibly, he's doing better than he has in any previous cycle. But the fact that we all lived through 2020 makes it everybody's caveating everything. And there is a very, very strong case that Donald Trump's going to win, but quite frankly, it's a stack of a lot of probablys. He's probably outperforming Clinton in the national popular vote.
Wow.
The air of polling in the swing states is probably going to be to the left. The betting market is probably correct. Republicans will probably still outperform Democrats on election day. If you stack all of those probablys, you get a Trump win, which is what everything's saying. All of the prediction models, all of the betting markets, and increasingly the polling are saying that Trump's going to win. Problem is, right? Everybody lived through 2020. 66% of voters think it's at least somewhat likely this election is going to be affected by cheating. We had 50 to 60, depending on the poll, percent of people that think the outcome of 2020 was affected by cheating. We even have half the electorate that at least somewhat agree with the premise of that song, 81 million votes, my ass. So, I mean, like the signals of cheating are off the chart, and people, I think, see through all of these things. Like, the mail-in ballots, they think it's to make things easier to cheat by 2-to-1 margin. They want votes counted on election day and not dragged out. And what is really scary to me is I've been tracking the national psyche in a way that most other pollsters aren't. We are not in a healthy place to go into an election where Donald Trump is leading in every single form of prediction, only to have 3 to 4 key battleground states drag it out for a week, a month for lawyers to get involved. It will not be healthy. Roughly half of voters think that irregardless of what candidate wins, there's going to be a violent reaction. And we're talking about something that's like 11 days away now.
Mark, we all went to bed on election night, and I just drew a quick graphic while I have 2 markers in front of me. And this is what we saw at midnight. We woke up the next morning and it was this. I mean, you're a man of polling, so you see a lot of trends. There was no trend in that. I mean, that's like something we've never seen before. So it scares the hell out of me now that the Democrats will have more information than they did in 2020, and they'll know how many more mail-in ballots they have to wait for. It really scares me. Nate Silver, who I think is a total sleazebag, slime bag, idiot, doesn't know a damn thing, says his gut tells him Trump's going to win, but don't trust anyone's gut. I'm not exactly sure what he was trying to say, but you've got guys all over the map. Jim Cramer, who's been statistically wrong about everything, Mark. I think there's a Twitter page that goes into if you took all of Jim Cramer's trades, how much in the hole you would be. It's not good. I'm hearing rumblings inside of MSNBC that maybe he's changing his mind. Now, I hope he doesn't change his mind.
Boy.
And I hope he sticks with Kamala, because we know he's always wrong. But it's just very alarming to me. The mainstream media, they're, in complete meltdown. The View, I won't watch it, but I'll, see clips on Twitter. Joy Behar saying it's hard to believe people support a fascist pig because he uses the same language as Hitler. Who is Joy Behar? Do these people have mirrors? Do they look inside of a mirror every day when they wake up on who they are? You and I were talking before the show about people selling out their souls to Hollywood, the elites. President Trump has not sold out to anybody, Mark. This presidency has cost him his life, nearly cost him his actual life 2 times. It's cost him his personal life, as a superstar, loved by everybody. It's cost him billions of dollars in business dealings, and it's hurt him. Things came out that would have never come out before, affecting his personal life. What are these people? What is wrong with them, Mark? In my opinion, it boils down to jealousy, I think, because President Trump does and says whatever he wants to do, and he gets away with it. But I can't figure out what is wrong with these people that they're so mentally deranged.
I think the obvious take, looking at it objectively, in my opinion, is that they're the brown shirts of a kleptocratic oligarchy, let's just say. Because really, they are not helping the nation. I have a slew of numbers. during the Biden administration, now 60% of people think the media is the enemy of the people. That's a new one. They've completely lost trust in the media. You can look at the Gallup numbers that just got put out now if you need confirmation. MSNBC viewers and Fox News, Newsmax viewers have totally different views of the world. 75%, pick a random swing state, 75% of MSNBC viewers think the number one issue is Trump's threat to democracy. Number two is abortion. Fox News and Newsmax, it's the economy and the border, which are objectively like the problems. And maybe they sold out. Maybe they're just part of an entire mechanism that has arrayed itself quite transparently to stop Trump. And I think the only takeaway is that voters realize it and want him more because of that. I mean, look at what the indictments did, and look at, he's got higher favorability ratings than ever before. This is a president that, according to MSNBC, attempted to violently overthrow the government in 2021. And his favorability rating is higher right now than both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
And Taylor Swift, Mark. I can't believe you did not get that in there. Taylor Swift is like everyone's fangirl. Look at Travis Kelce. Yeah. He's fangirled and got her. Higher
approval rating than the Supreme Court, than Congress, than the federal government, than the CIA, than the FBI, than Mitch McConnell, than Speaker Johnson, Hakeem Jeffries. Higher than literally everybody, including like Disney, even higher than literally everybody's got a lower favorability rate than Donald Trump. I'm sorry, that's like the reality. And people will say, "Oh, you're a right-wing pollster." No, go look at Gallup. They show that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are roughly equal, which is about what we do. Donald Trump edges her out a little bit, and everybody else that shows Harris winning shows that Donald Trump has like a 20 to 25 point favorability disadvantage. It's like clown world. They've created the world inside their polls they want to see.
You know, the problem with Donald Trump, too, that they have is Donald Trump is either really loved or really hated. So that's why I think Kamala Harris is not likable by any means. I've never met the woman. Mark, I couldn't care less about ever meeting her. She looks like just a phony person who everything's a joke to her, brain dead, doesn't know what's going on, should never be in this job in the first place, shouldn't have had any of the prior jobs she's had. Don't know how she's got them, but the woman is just very, fake. She's not genuine. And I think the voters actually see through that. And I think what we're seeing this election is people are putting their Trump derangement aside, some of them. Now, the ones who have it really bad, it's getting worse, Mark, because they're coming to reality of what's going to happen. But these people who had semi-Trump derangement syndrome in 2020, I think are putting that aside and saying, my life was better under President Trump, and this woman's a fraud and a phony. And what we've got under Joe Biden this last 4 years is absolutely hurt us. It's ruined our lives. I want to take one more quick break here. We're talking with Mark Mitchell, the head pollster for Rasmussen. Well, Mark, when we come back, I want to take up this October surprise.
Oh, boy.
Donald Trump's got an October surprise. We're going to tell you all about it when we return. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We're back. We're talking with Mark Mitchell, head pollster for Rasmussen. 11 days till Election Day, November 5th. And we've got an October surprise. I think this one came from The Atlantic, the dishonest. Wouldn't even call them a news outlet. I'd put them in like the category of People magazine, more like tabloid gossip. Like one of those magazines you get on the line, the checkout line at Publix or supermarkets that had like Michael Jackson dying for 10 years before he actually died. Get away with everything. Atlantic News has new reporting out, and it comes from John Kelly, the former chief of staff to President Trump. Speaking of Trump derangement syndrome, he's very sick with it. And he's alleging that President Trump said in a meeting, among other people, yet he's the only one who's confirmed this so far, Mark, that Donald Trump allegedly said he wants more generals or wish he had more generals like Adolf Hitler had. I mean, is this the most absurd October surprise you've heard?
Yeah. I mean, literally convicting him as a felon wasn't enough to take Donald Trump out. And now the word of some guy. And I love, this was a big topic of conversation today on Mark Halperin's two-way show. They pair up a Democrat with a Republican and they talk about it. But what's crazy is when two DC politicos are talking, they couldn't even bring themselves to acknowledge the fact that maybe Mark Kelly has some incentives to lie. Am I calling him a liar? I don't know. But this is the same reality in which 51 former intelligence agency officials came out and absolutely lied to keep Donald Trump out of office, and it was effective. In my opinion, that's one of the multiple on a list of many coups against the will of the elected people in this country. So yeah, it could have happened. But ultimately what it comes down to, looking at battleground voters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Only 37% of battleground voters say yes. Will today's children be better off than their parents? Only 22% of battleground voters say yes. So I quite frankly don't think they give a crap about what Donald Trump says behind closed doors. And to be honest with you, Hitler probably did have some pretty good generals because with a pretty small population and manufacturing base, he took over a pretty good portion of Europe. I mean, I'm sorry. That isn't.
Well, that's history, Mark. You're see, I agree with you, but that's history, right? And there's people who say Adolf Hitler was very smart and he got away with what he did. And if he was a little bit smarter, he would have waited till the summer and not went in the winter. You know, this is history, Mark. It's fact. But these Democrats can't talk based on fact. If you say Vladimir Putin is smart, you're automatically a Russian asset. You're a spy for calling out what it is. Vladimir Putin is smart. He's smarter than Joe Biden. He's smarter than Kamala Harris. He's smarter than Vladimir Zelensky. He's probably smarter than Xi Jinping. It's the truth, Mark. The facts are the facts. But these people can't talk in fact. Everything is you're a Russian asset. You're a Chinese spy. It's always
control reality with gaslighting. That's a perfect example of why Kamala Harris failed when she went on Fox News. I mean, listen, that could have been a success if they had planned better. The problem is that you could tell immediately, and everybody says she's stupid. I think she's kind of smart, probably. It's just that how could she have played that? She had the wrong strategy completely. It was almost like she was wrestling to assert a different reality to Bret Baier instead of just answering the questions honestly, objectively. And that's the problem we found ourselves in. And that's why we're closer to civil war than at any point in our polling, for sure. 43% of Americans nationally think a civil war or revolution is happening in the next few years. It's because objective fact has been thrown out the window for vibes and feelings.
You know, you're absolutely right about the Fox News interview. Bret Baier is not a Republican. He's a rhino at best. And sitting there watching him sit down and talk with Kamala Harris, it was just funny because I couldn't tell which one of them was more real than the other. Bret Baier's plastic surgery face or Kamala Harris's whole fake life that she's been living. So it was tough for me to watch the clips that I did watch. Nonetheless, I think it was probably one of Bret's best interviews he's ever done. And that says a lot because he hasn't done many. I want to turn to – actually, before I turn to something, you'd mentioned John Kelly and – maybe being a liar, maybe not being a liar. The problem we have with John Kelly is the same one we had with John McCain. You have to differentiate, Mark, between a military career and a political career. There are people who are in the military. Anyone who goes to serve for this country at the time is a great person, and you're a hero, and everything you're doing for this country, you're an absolute total hero. When you get out of the military, Mark, and you go into private sector life, it doesn't mean that you're not going to become a bad person, and the vice versa. There's people who went to jail for doing horrendous things to people, have come out and found God, found Jesus, and they become different people, right?
Yeah.
People don't differentiate the military service career and the political career. John McCain was in the military. He served this country honorably. He got out. He became a politician. He was no good. He was a war criminal. The guy loved war more than John Bolton, which was hard to find. And Nikki Haley doesn't make them.
Yeah.
You have to differentiate too. So I just had to get
John,
that.
let me go a step further. This is like you're pitching in my strike zone here. I was former military. I'll go a step further and say stuff that you don't seem to want to say. There are people absolutely in the military. The word that you're looking for is integrity. And the military knows this and understands this. That's because it's a key part of what it tries to instill in its members. It's not necessarily that you're bad. It's that you have to try hard to do the right things. And sometimes the right thing is hard. And there are absolutely 100% people that I experienced in the military that lacked integrity. I mean, we had chemists add the wrong chemicals to the wrong steam generator. That's really bad. We had somebody lose a whole lot of ComSec material. That's really bad. And anybody can lose their integrity at any point in time. The thing is, you can also get it back. It's all comes down to trust, right? And so it's reasonable to expect, no matter what a person's military career, no matter how decorated they are, if the incentives are for them to come out like this and try and attack somebody, you better try and understand why. And if it's a failure of integrity, it's totally reasonable. But it's like the politicos don't want to evaluate that possibility because they're afraid it's going to get back to them at a cocktail party.
Yeah, and you're right. The reason I get touchy on that is because, I didn't go to the military. I chose not to. And, I kind of look back in resentment and kind of wish that I did. And I wish I had the guts at the time when I was 18 years old before I went to college to go ahead and do it. It is what it is. My life turned out the way it turned out. I'm very happy with it. But, like you said, there's good people who do bad things and there's bad people who wind up doing good things. And we have to differentiate that. I want to wrap up with here three key groups which are going to turn this election one way or another for either candidate. And that's the Black community, the Hispanic community, and the Jewish community. So I just want to break down into those three groups. We could start with the Black community first. It's apparent that President Trump has got these people, this community, on his side because they see through the bullshit. You've got Barack Obama out there, identity politics, calling these guys brothers. Who does that? We're not Jim Crow anymore, Mark. You don't go out there and talk to these people like you're better than them. You're going to tell them what to do. We're Americans. We're skin color. We're all the same on the inside, Mark. Who the hell is Barack Obama to go out there and play identity politics with these people because of skin color?
Yeah, it's really gross. And I think when everybody looks back at this, and as we expect what happens, which is Trump wins and there isn't a cheat, one of the things that I think we're all going to see is how horrible the Democrats were at branding. And this is somewhere that they had the upper hand. And listen, they have deep pockets. They could reach out to any of the best agencies in Manhattan. They could pay for every consultant that they wanted to. They could produce any kind of videos or ads. And what they don't understand is that people have moved on. They want authenticity. I found a really good example. There's probably a million ways that you could show this, but I just went to Google Trends and I Googled, I don't know, let's just say movie trailer. And I compared it to podcasts. And what happened is people's interest over the last 10 years in movie trailers has gone down 70%, but podcasts have gone up like 200-300%. That's because people want somebody they can trust, authenticity. They don't want to be lied to. And slick corporate crap is not going to move the needle anymore. It's just not. And here's the other thing that really disgusts me is that Obama didn't show up. They didn't start this messaging until 2 weeks ago. I've been showing the Democrats losing the black vote for 10 years now. 10 years. In fact, all year, Donald Trump has been getting between 25 and 30% of the black vote. What's kind of weird is just in the last week, we're above 30% again. So it's almost like Obama coming out and doing this might not even be helping things, but making it worse.
Before I turn to Hispanics, I want to get into that. You brought up an excellent point about podcasts in this. I come out and do this show every day, Mark, and I'm as genuine as can be. I'm not a perfect person. None of us are. We're flawed human beings. That's what we are. But, I come out here and I do the show every day and I don't owe anybody anything, Mark. Nobody owes me anything. Nobody comes out here and tells me what to say. Lou's wife, who was very involved with the show when Lou was alive, she's pretty much said to me, I trust you to make your best judgment on guests and everything you do. And I have a team of people I work with. We owe nothing to anybody, and nobody comes out here and tells us what to say. Every now and then I'll have a guest on that the audience doesn't like and they don't appreciate it. And you know what? I hear from them. I see it in the ratings for that day's show. But I move on, and I think they forgive me because they come back the next day, and they come back in masses, and they come back with friends. So this is a very important outlet that Lou had left me. Millions of people to get the word out. And, I had the opportunity when Lou passed away to go on and get out of this industry that's so damn toxic. And I said, we built up an audience of millions and millions and tens of millions of people that I owe it to finish what Lou and I had started. So that's why I come out here every day and do that for the audience, just get that off my chest. I want to turn to Hispanics. The trends we're seeing now with President Trump. In 2020, he outperformed 2016 in Hispanic trends. What's it looking like now relative to 2020?
I mean, this is exactly like the black vote. It's been inexorably marching right. And the Hispanic vote swung further right last cycle than the black vote did. But now, depending on the poll, you could see Trump down a few points to like up double digits, to be honest with you. I don't know exactly where it's going to come out. It's really hard to actually trust the exit polling, but
of course.
I'm also not doing Spanish language poll. Maybe I'm getting more people who say they are white first, but then Hispanic, or vice versa. So it's really hard to dial that in. But the point is a trend in our polling, like Hillary Clinton won by 30, 40, whatever it was among the Hispanic vote. And we're talking about Trump winning them now. And this is just one more of the core demographics that Democrats have relied on, including the 18 to 39-year-old vote, that's just been abandoning them. Now, of course, there are offsets. The insane white liberal suburban cat lady vote is breaking hard Democrat right now. It really is. And that's where we're at. And ultimately, it comes down to who shows up. But poll after betting market after early turnout shows that this is all going in Trump's favor. So, I mean, there it is. And you talked about podcasts. I want to make a very interesting point. And this Joe Rogan thing is going to be incredible.
Yep.
We have, how many news cycles are left between now and election day? Not very many of them. And people say, well, Joe Rogan's not a Trump guy. Why would Trump try and go on? And sometimes Trump rambles and blah, 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 like some stuff like that.
No, he weaves.
Oh, yeah.
It's called weaving.
The point is that what have we been talking about? Authenticity. And here we have a Democrat Party who has raised $1 billion. Forget that maybe 300 or 400 of it is laundered, small dollar donations that the government hasn't looked into. But you might have Joe Rogan win the presidency for Donald Trump against $1 billion. How's that for the power of podcasts against this kleptocratic oligarchy? And, to be honest, do I think that Joe Rogan's going to move the polls? No, but what it's going to do is it's going to shut Kamala Harris out of 3 days worth of news cycles. Then she can't. I mean, she's behind. She needs to win every one of them. I'll tell you right now, today's news cycle ain't winning her anything. This Hitler one. So better luck tomorrow, lady.
And she's taking a few days off. The interesting thing about Joe Rogan, Mark, is that he's got an average audience on each episode of about 11 to 12 million, and maybe more now, maybe a little bit less. I'm not sure. Donald Trump breaks records. We've had him on this show. He outperforms every single guest. I'm sorry to tell you this, Mark, but outperforms every guest 2 to 3, 4x. I mean, it's just what it is. So when he goes on Joe Rogan, the haters are going to watch him. The people who love him are going to watch him. The people who are undecided are going to watch him. If it's 15 million people, if it's 20 million people listen to him, we got to look at numbers like Georgia. Trump lost Georgia by less than 20,000 votes. Wisconsin. Trump lost Wisconsin by about 20,000 votes. So you take these little masses out of 15 million people or 20 million people, and if he pulls over a few thousand people, Mark, if this is going to be this tight of an election, it moves the needle. I want to wrap up with the last one, and perhaps the most important one, that polling is still, it really disappoints me for the Jewish folks and why there's not more support from them for President Trump. He supports them wholeheartedly. If they don't believe me, go look at the Abraham Accords. I firmly believe the only reason Israel is there today as this war goes on is because of those Abraham Accords. I firmly believe if they weren't in power, if they weren't enacted, we'd see a lot different situation unfolding in Gaza right now. How are we looking with the Jewish vote?
So this is another tough one. I would say the Hispanic vote is elusive. The Jewish vote is like 50 times more elusive.
Oh my
I did a
God.
combined swing state set of polling, 10,200 respondents, and I only got 243 Jewish responses. So we're talking about a really small subsample. I think the margin of error here is like 5 or 6%. But we had it going Harris 56% to 40%. So that
How?
ain't bad.
Yeah, but how, Mark? The Democrats, if they retain power, there's going to be a two-state solution. I don't know if these folks understand that. There will be a two-state solution if these people, they may not be saying it now, and it's because of this exact reason. How is it still that spread? It's mind-blowing to me. The Republicans are the only ones that support them.
I don't know if I got Jews in name only. I don't know if I got Orthodox Jews. I don't know if I have urban or suburban Jews. And if I tried to start slicing and dicing and looking at it even closer, the signal is going to go away. It's too statistically insignificant. We're talking about 1% or 2% of the electorate. And quite frankly, the people in that group that are voting because of their cultural values, specifically Judaism, are probably pretty small. They're probably voting because of social pressure, because of pet issues, because of all their friends and family, or like other reasons why the reasons why normal people would vote, which is again why the Hispanics are breaking Trump, because you could say, oh, well, like, yeah, they don't want to see people like crack down illegal immigrants. No, they do. They want the illegal immigrants out. And the Catholic values matter a lot to them. And these are all things that Kamala Harris is like the absolute worst candidate. And yet still, they're not breaking for Trump 100%. They've been breaking for Trump more and more over years and years. So it might take them a lot of time to come around. But quite frankly, like Trump's winning it without him.
Yeah, but the only difference is, Mark, with the Jewish vote is like their life actually relies on it. Most Jewish folks in this country have some sort of ties back to Israel, whether it still be family there or whether they be born there. The Hispanic folks and the black folks in this country, nothing's going to change for them. You know, we're still a great nation, regardless of who the president is. They'll still be here, the legal ones. So it doesn't change for them. But these folks, it blows my mind, and it really disappoints me that it's not in Trump's favor because of all he's done. It's not like he's come out here, Mark, says he's going to do X, Y, and Z. The Abraham Accords, for anyone who doesn't know what they are, go do some research on the Abraham Accords. Tell your Jewish friends. I mean, because it's important that these people understand what President Trump did for them and what he'll continue to do for them. I don't think we see a two-state solution under President Trump, but under I won't even say president. We won't say her name, but in that administration, we'll see a two-state solution. Mark, we pray to God that you are right. I know you're a man of faith. Please, you got 2 more Sundays before this election. Please go to church for me and pray to God that Donald Trump pulls this thing out on November 5th, because our lives depend on it. They really do.
Well, the evangelical Christians are definitely voting Trump, but I don't know. The Protestants got to get it together. Evangelical Christians go Trump 35 points. Protestants, depending on the state, it's roughly tied to Trump up a few points. It's like 2 totally different religions. But listen, there's a lot of time between now and Election Day. Kamala Harris is definitely caught in the doom loop. And day after day, more people join us in the 2% club. You can put Harris X4 polling in the 2% club today. Tip's probably going to come back. Atlas Intel, Inside Advantage, they're all there too. So is Trafalgar. I think we're going to see Rich Barris. Donald Trump's probably winning the national popular vote. That's going to be a sweep of the swing states. And I think all the data agrees with it.
The doom loop. I love it. One more quick question before I let you go. Give me your best guess. Does Donald Trump win New York?
Oh, absolutely not. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
He's got a good shot in Virginia. He's got a good shot maybe in Minnesota. New Mexico is a really tough one to call, and I'm polling New Hampshire tomorrow, so we'll see. But Virginia is the one that everybody should look at. Like, your eyes shouldn't be too big for your stomach there.
I hope you're wrong about New York. The only reason
we'll see what Madison Square Garden does. We'll see.
Well, I'll be there on Sunday. I'm going to get to see him. I'll talk to him. And give a little hell for what Lou would have done. But Mark, we appreciate everything you're doing. Like I said, we pray to God that you're right and you're wrong about New York, because it'll just add to a massive victory, Walter Mondale style.
Yeah, right.
But we appreciate
Maybe.
all the honesty and the great work you're doing. Mark Mitchell, leading head pollster for Rasmussen. Like I said, one of the few good guys in this business. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks to Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. As I said, Rasmussen does a terrific job, and they have a great amount of integrity. Was a term that Mark used in the interview. They have a great deal of integrity, and I think they do an honest job of all their polling that they do. Be sure to join us back here tomorrow, folks, for the Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY and on Truth Social at John Fawcett. Could also now follow us on Instagram. That's right. The Great America Show is on Instagram. We're going to be posting daily clips of the show of our favorite guests and key moments and some of the key highlights of what they say on this show. You can follow us. It's a very simple handle on Instagram, The Great America Show. So follow us on Instagram. Be sure to do that, and we appreciate it. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for the Great America Show. May God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the great, great Lou Dobbs.